Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. My name is John Estrada. We have Rolando Larraz and Chris Garcia as a guest today. We're going to be talking about political issues in America. And the first issue of the day is Donald Trump. Rolando?
Who is Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Explain to us who Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is the Republican nominee for president. However, the Republican establishment would rather him not be the nominee, but it's too late. So we have a chance for.
Do you have a short name for Donald Trump, like the savior of this country?
How about DT?
DT? What does that mean? Oh, DT, Donald Trump. Okay, I forgot that American people, everything they do is George. No, I was thinking about more like the person who is going to save this country from destruction. That's why I was thinking something a little more.
Well, one guy says we need Jesus. That's what we need to save this country.
So we can rename Donald Trump Jesus for a while, you know. Right, Chris?
I don't think he would want that. I think he's happy with Donald Trump. In fact, what we will have is there will be, in addition to the White House, there'll be the Trump Towers in the White House when he gets in there, I'm sure.
Instead of the Oval Office is the tower.
Yeah, he's going to have the Trump office or something. So he'll have something named after him there, I'm sure.
That's most likely that's the way it's going to be, because he come from the outside. Most people that come here, they come to be the president. They either come from the Senate or they come from any. Actually, yes, most presidents have been a senator first.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, a lot of people don't know that property that the White House is on
belonged to Donald Trump.
No, it was owned by farmers.
Farmers Insurance?
No, not Farmers Insurance, it's farmers, you know. And in fact, the farmer that owned that property, the leaders at that time were in conflict with him because he didn't want to sell. And they sort of like forced him out. So that's competition. Government has been in competition with private industry since way back when.
Wow.
So Chris, go ahead, tell us about Donald Trump.
Well, I'm just hoping and praying, and I'm every day I get more disgusted. You have to laugh. Honestly, we know we're talking about serious subjects here, but we try and add a little humor because it is sad, some of the things that's going on in this country. We try and lighten up the mood here a little bit at Radio Tribune, Face the Tribune, and Conservative Roundtable. We try and lighten the mood, but make no doubt about it, the three of us, John Estrada, Rolando, Larraz, and myself, we take this very seriously. And it's a shame what the liberal left-wing movement is doing in this country and how it's trying to brainwash people to stay home, to not vote, that the race is over, that Donald Trump doesn't care about women even though he has a wife that adores him and beautiful daughters. And it's amazing to me how they can try and basically buy your vote and try and brainwash you into voting one way or the other. And they don't want to talk about the real issues. And every time you talk about the real issues, they talk about some woman is blaming Donald Trump for talking to her or coming on to her inappropriately. What does that have to do with people working and people being able to pay their bills and being able to have borders? If you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And TPP, and some of which is just another level of NAFTA, is just going to ship more jobs out of this country. Coal miners, you can forget about those mines opening back up. Steel mills, you can forget about those jobs coming back to this country. And they almost talk about it as if it's a foregone conclusion, like those jobs are gone and they're never going to come back. Well, wow. Why don't you just say that then? Stop trying to hide behind these agreements and just come out and tell people, you know what, those jobs are gone, good American jobs. We can't compete. They're never going to come back. And let's see how many votes that you get. Stop hiding behind NAFTA and TPP and these other agreements. Just come out and tell the American people you've stopped fighting for them. Hillary Clinton, that's what you need to do. Because Donald Trump is saying, I am going to fight and try and bring those jobs back. Why doesn't she just say, I've given up and this is the direction that we're going to go in? And just be honest with people. Because we all know that you're two-faced, and what you say in private and what you say to the American people are two totally different things. And I think I think there will be people, John, Rolando, within her own party that will expose her. It will come out eventually. Everybody doesn't like her. You have a lot of people, I think, in her party, even the Obamas, who don't like her. And they're I don't know why Barack Obama is out campaigning for her so hard, but it doesn't make sense because there's been a long time strife between the Obamas and the Clintons, and it just it just makes me wonder. And I was sitting there watching it the other day, what is going on and how far up these emails and some of the other things that she has gotten herself into as Secretary of State. We don't want to talk about. Everybody wants to talk about Hillary Clinton. But, she did have to answer to somebody for 8 years while she was for 4 years while she was Secretary of State. She did have to answer to the President of the United States. So while some of these things were going on, Barack Obama was certainly aware of some of these emails and certainly aware of what was going on in Benghazi. And it's just amazing to me how the mainstream media, but while he's out campaigning so hard, it just makes me believe that there are secrets to go all the way to the top, and I believe that the American people are going to be astonished if she is so unfortunately elected president on November 8th. I think that she will definitely be called back to Congress again. And what's so scary to me also, John, my last point is, we have possibly 3 Supreme Court justice seats that will be open in the next year or so. Can you imagine if she's allowed to appoint up to 3? I mean, you're talking about for the next half century, maybe, the direction of this country and the decisions that will be made in this country, will be judges that were appointed by maybe the most socialist, possibly communist, president that we've ever had in the history of our country. So just for that point alone, it's got to scare people. Gun rights people that follow the Constitution of the United States, you are threatened if Hillary Clinton becomes president because she has openly fought against the NRA and against people's rights to have guns. Now she tries to say, I'm not against guns. I mean, everything that she says, she has 2 or 3 opinions on. And Donald Trump gets in trouble for saying what he believes and sticking to what he believes. And I think he actually gets in trouble because he does not go back on what he says. Whatever he says, he stands for it. And he says the same thing next week and next month. And that's what he believes. And Hillary Clinton says whatever she has to say to get through that day or that state, whatever the people want to hear. And I've never liked leaders like that. Whatever you believe in, even if I disagree with you, just stay true to your point and don't be two-faced and just, whatever you believe in, stick to that. And so she definitely has a private side that she talks to kings and leaders around the world, and she assures them that it will be business as usual. Nothing will change. We will continue to ship jobs out of this country. We will continue to develop even more open borders and let more illegals in, which drive down the minimum wage and the quality of life for most Americans here. She assures presidents when she meets with them that everything will be okay. It will be business as usual. And then when she gets on stage in front of the American people, she says, I'm fighting for you. I think it's a crime. I think it's a disaster. And I think that I can't wait to more of these emails that shows how she privately feels about the American people. I mean, she said, half of all Trump supporters were, a basket of deplorables. And that young African Americans, were I forget the word she used, John, but she talked about how they were predators, but it's just like Donald Trump says, she courts the Hispanic vote and the black vote, and then after she gets elected to whatever her or her husband are running, she does nothing. I am an Afro-Cuban American. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. It is a disaster. It is 3,000 people lost their lives to gun violence on the south side of Chicago last year. The crime rate has gone up every year Barack Obama has been in office. We have 100 million Americans on some sort of food subsidies here in the United States of America. We have doubled the national debt from 10 trillion to 20 trillion in 8 years. And we want 4 more years of the same thing.
2 billion a day.
That's just the interest alone. We will never be able to pay down the debt if we continue to go in the direction we're going in. And yet, Donald Trump gets on TV and says, they've done nothing for you. Why, as the African American community? And this is very important. Why do they continue to put these Democrats in office? They do nothing. Go to the inner cities of Los Angeles. John, you've been there. Go to the inner city of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta, Detroit. All of these cities have had Democratic mayors. You know, they always talk about Bush and Katrina. Well, you know what? New Orleans, Ray Nagin was a Democratic mayor. What did he do? How did he prepare his citizens, you know, for a possible hurricane? What did he do? You know, the first defense, the first response is the local response. The president and FEMA can only come in later on after the National Guard or after these agencies have secured the area. Then their job is to come in and have some sort of aid to the people and food aid, water drops. Their job is not to be the first responders. The first responders are local government. And we all found out how corrupt Ray Nagin was, a Democratic mayor, and the other Democratic legislative leaders they had in the city of New Orleans. It wasn't George Bush's fault what happened to Katrina. It was the Democratic leadership in the state of Louisiana and in the city of New Orleans. We continue to elect these African American communities Democratic leadership, and they do nothing. They sat there for years. Ray Nagin knew about those levees. He knew how outdated those levees were. He knew most of his people lived in lower line areas in New Orleans. He knew that if a hurricane hit that area, that was what was going to happen to those people. And he sat there and did nothing and took millions of dollars off the books. He was a criminal. And yet these people elected him mayor. What about in Washington, D.C., when they elected a mayor who was found in a hotel room smoking crack cocaine with 2 prostitutes? And yet, when he came out of jail, they reelected him again. And that goes for governors, and that goes for senators, and that goes for Barack Obama. And Hillary Clinton will be more of the same. She will say what she's going to do for African Americans, for women, and when she gets in office, she will do absolutely nothing. She will say in 4 more years, she will campaign again and say what she's going to do for these communities. And I guarantee you the crime rate in Chicago, Los Angeles, but you know what? We had a Republican mayor in New York City, and look what happened to the crime rate when they instituted stop and frisk.
That was Giuliani, right?
Rudolph Giuliani. And you know, I mean, he gets bad mouth for using stop and frisk, or when you out at 11 or 12 o'clock at night on a school night and the curfew is 9 o'clock and you're walking around with a hoodie on at 12 o'clock at night. I think if I was a police officer, I might would stop that child first of all and say, what are you doing out here at this time of night? And second of all, why are you fumbling around with your pockets and putting stuff in your pockets when we pulled over? We have a right to pull you over. We have a right to ask you what you're doing here. And you know what? The crime rate dropped 80%.
Yeah.
That was a Republican mayor. And you know what? He actually became very popular in the minority community. Want to know why? Because he made it safe for you to get up and go to work. He made it safe for you to ride the trains in Brooklyn. Look at New York now. Have you been to New York?
And he made it safety for those minority people to deal with the police.
Absolutely.
They were not afraid to deal with the police.
I'm sorry it took so long, but that just is. I grew up in
No,
those communities.
I think it's important that
John, are you paying him more than I'm paying
during
him?
this show.
A good show with
Yeah, during this show, I do want to hear from you. That's why you're here. We want to hear your opinions and your feelings about what's going on. But anyway, let me just go and add on one very important discovery, and that we're living in a moment of time that counts. We're living in a time that has everybody needs to understand we're living in a very dangerous society right now. We are not safe anymore from our leaders of this country. They're only looking out for their own interests. The heck with the interest of our society. They're just trying to fatten their political positions so they could make more money, more political procedures, more political positions. And so, we really have to determine some very basic thoughts here. We have to figure out that we need to look at being more involved in the political process, more involved in the business process of electing the smart politicians, the politicians that are not corrupt, the politicians that are honest. And Donald Trump just came out with a very important position, and that is term limits. I'm one person that is totally in favor of term limits for career politicians.
They got to be shaking in their boots about that, John. They have to be shaking in their boots about that. That's something Rolando, and I know you talked about it, John. Rolando said that as long as I've known him, these people, they shouldn't have lifelong jobs, basically like Harry Reid, and just being basically in unchallenged elections, because that's what they are.
When you become an incumbent member of Congress, it's practically impossible to remove them. Because number one, they have the media backing them up. They have the business community backing them up. They have the political machines backing them up. It is suicide to go against them.
Absolutely.
Political suicide.
Absolutely.
And so once you elect, especially if you elect a bad apple, a bad politician, and then a career politician, it only is worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Rolando, what do you think now that we got you on the hot seat about career politicians?
No, I always been very much against that. I believe in it's almost like living in a dictatorship, maybe in a less scale, but still. It is people are used to, they go in there and they move in and they don't want to give up those salaries. It's easy to have a secretary, rent, telephone, power, everything paid for.
An expense account.
Paid for an expense account plus a salary, then it doesn't reflect what you really deserve. At the expense of the American people. I believe that I agree with Donald Trump. I've been saying that for years. Put long term. I mean, the president has a term limit. Why not the Senate?
How about judges, too? Wouldn't that be nice to have term limits for U.S. Supreme Court justices?
Yeah, I never studied that much, but I know judges in here, in district court, and in the appellate court should be a term limit. You get to be too powerful. You get to be too secure of your job, But at least these judges over here, they have to be elected every 4 years or every 6 years. But
it's hard to defeat an incumbent.
It's very hard to defeat an incumbent.
Because number one, they have name ID, they got the money, they got the position,
I
they got
tell
the
you
media,
what
everybody.
I think we need to restrict the term limit to the position or to the person. You cannot be elected to office more than 8 years or maybe 12 years, okay? 3 terms, okay? But what are they doing over here in the legislature? You are running out of your term limit in the Senate, and then you run for assembly. Or you are in the assembly, you run out of time.
How about a lifetime in politics of no more than 20 years for everything?
No, I think it's too much.
How about 12 years for everything?
12 years.
Okay, good.
12 years.
In other words, you either be a U.S. Senator for 12 years, or a Congressman for 12 years, or a judge for 12 years, or Assemblyman for 12.
My opinion, I used to have a lot of respect for the president position. I do. Even Jimmy Carter, I respected him. And, we all know what kind of president he was.
Well,
Okay?
I was always supportive of presidents that were against communism.
But that's not Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter went over there and started making deals with Fidel Castro before Obama even tried to go over there.
So he didn't do his job either.
Not in my opinion. He was not in my opinion. But what do I know? I talk with an accent.
Okay, let's go back to we know about the lid is out on the media being corrupt. So now the other pieces are starting to fall into position. Now that we find out why that the media is corrupt, guess what happens? Now we know why the government has a transparency problem, don't we?
Yes.
If the media is corrupt and they're holding hands with the corrupt politicians, you think they're going to expose the government and all the corruption that goes on in the government?
No. The only time they expose anything, John, is when somebody in the same clique is telling them it's time to get rid of this guy, and then the media come out with some dirt on that guy. Or
In other words, maybe he took a position against the establishment or the status quo, and so he becomes a bad apple, bad character now, and that's when the exposure comes out on him and he gets disgraced.
Yeah. I think what the Clintons had better be worried about is this, and Rolando says this all the time. Usually, just like with the Billy Bush incident and the video, when something comes out about a candidate, it actually usually is somebody from their own party that sells them out. And I think that everything, 2 weeks in politics is like 2 years. This is a long time to November the 8th. I've seen things come out. I remember the election between between Obama and McCain. McCain was winning after the debates. I think if that economy, if the housing bubble hadn't have burst right before that election, I think John McCain was going to beat him. I really do believe that. But it was weird because everything that came out about Obama came out pretty early in the election. And then we started, I forget who was his vice presidential choice, the lady, what was her name, for John McCain?
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin. I remember things started coming out late about her. And then things started coming out, even with John Kerry. I remember John Kerry was winning, and then things started coming out about him. 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks is a long time to an election. And I'm just beginning to notice the trend now is, I believe somebody in her camp, or there are some people maybe with some things that grudges against the Clintons. And now all of a sudden, tapes are starting to surface against the Democratic Party. Tapes are starting to surface against Hillary Clinton. Who knows in the next 2 weeks? I mean, it could be the night before. I believe Rolando is right. There's a large amount of people that are going to vote for Trump and aren't saying it publicly. And then I still think there will be people until the night before that are undecided about this election. And if something comes out devastating. We might have a guest tomorrow, a family member of mine, my uncle EJ. He might want to come on, and he's a staunch Hillary supporter, so that would be interesting.
That would be I would like to be here for.
Oh yeah, he's Obama, Hillary. Oh God, yeah, he's a machine person. He believes in that liberal cause, so that would be interesting. We have fun with each other,
and that's a good thing to have the other side come up with their position.
What do you think, though, John? Rolando, do you think there are tapes that are going to come out about Hillary
in
these last 2 weeks?
I do. You know what, Chris? I think you're right on target. I think there is going to be a lot more stuff on both of them, and I've been following politics for many years, and I just think everything is a fishy situation right now. It is too close to call. There's so many different possibilities. I'm a chess player too, and I understand there's just too much that can go on in this election yet. Dealing with, there's so many people that are trying to be the power broker and the kingmaker and the master, and they're coming up with their own scenario. So whether it's dirt coming from a friend or dirt coming from an enemy or stuff coming out on anybody at this point in time, or the establishment or the media. Right now, everything is so up in the air. And the most important thing is that I think that if somebody's going to vote, then I would say go vote early. Because if the Democrats are saying that, there's a reason for that. If you're a Republican, go out and vote early. Don't take a chance.
That's right.
So the Democrats are putting that word out. The Republicans got to put that word out too. Go vote now. Don't wait for November the 8th.
Absolutely.
It's vital that the writing is on the wall. There is going to be a bunch of shenanigans going on from now until then, and so the votes that get in are the ones that are going to be counted.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I just don't believe in early voting. I believe that if you cannot sacrifice one day every 4 years to do the right thing for your country, how bad it is. You should not be, it's more comfortable. It's not a matter of comfort. It's not a matter of make it easy for you. It's a matter that, you need to vote, and it's always, since I can remember, since I was born, it's only one day every 4 years that you go to vote. What is the big deal?
So you're not in favor of early voting at all?
I don't. I am not in favor whatsoever, because every time they pick up that ballot box in a high school, in any place where, anytime you pick up a box in any polling place, you don't know what happened to that box between that polling place and the election department. I believe that it's, why is in the old days, your job even give you time to go vote.
Yes.
I mean,
Well, okay.
You go from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. Even if you go to work
Rolando,
at 7 o'clock.
You're cynical, Rolando.
No, I'm not cynical. I'm just telling you what it is.
He's right.
But you know what? You make sense, though. You make sense because, think about it. Why do they have all the voting taking place in different boxes all over the town?
Yeah.
What, like in California, if you vote, you got to mail in your ballot to one location. Now, to me, that would be, there's safety there. But you're right. What happens if you have a worker take that box and decides, I don't like those votes?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, you don't even need. They already got one set up with the votes they won. When they bring this one, they put them on the side of the van, because normally they are vans. They put them on the side of the van, and they put that one that they already got with the right amount of votes. They put them in there. They get to the election department, and they take the box that they already fixed. They take the vote that they already fixed. I believe that you are American, and you are a really honest human being, you will sacrifice yourself. Even the employers used to give you time to go vote. And you don't need the employer to be generous to you, because even if you start working at 9 o'clock in the morning, you can sacrifice yourself and go to vote 7 o'clock in the morning when they open. And, and if you go to work early, you don't need that, because you get off work before the 7 o'clock deadline. You don't need the employer, but in the old days, they used to give you a chance.
Do you remember when I ran for president?
Yeah.
You had this reporter give me a test on my constitutional level.
Yeah.
And so there was two ways that I was able to get through that interview. One, I said that there is a constitution that should be, and then there's a constitution that ought to be. In other words, what's happening today is that we really don't have the true constitution being followed.
Absolutely.
that's the way it should be. And
The way it should be,
It should
the
be,
way it
and
gotta be, and the way it is.
Exactly. So anyway, I got 100% on his reporter gave me a 100% exam.
Oh, wow.
Who was the reporter? You remember?
I forgot the lady's name. She was in your office, and we spent 2, 3, 4 hours.
Everybody in my office is a female.
She wrote the article, and it went very well. But that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is the Constitution is not being followed
That's right.
today.
That's
And
right.
so, and they're not even teaching it anymore in school. So that's a sad
We don't
part.
have constitution.
That's a sorry. I went into this situation. I had a personal issue happen with my daughter through CPS. They took my grandkids away from my daughter because she had an issue with drugs and stuff like that. And during that process, I went and interviewed with the attorney. And the attorney that I interviewed with, I says, well, don't you guys have due process and don't you have a constitution you have to follow? And they said, oh, we don't believe in the Constitution here. CPS does not believe in the Constitution. I said, well, whoa. You're telling me that you don't take that into consideration? Oh, no, we don't do that. I said, the other thing, too, is will you please tell me how many of you out here are Christians or believe in God? Almost without exception, there is not one person in that whole department that believed in God. Now, so you telling me you don't understand what faith is, mercy is, you don't have all the religious doctrine that we believe in?
So you don't care about the family?
So you don't, exactly, that's the point.
I know a case where
So-
the district court judge told the defendant, I made the law.
There you go.
That's right.
See, it's like, forget all the others. So what happens was that I says, okay, look it, I have a perfect record. I want to get my grandkids to be with me. Oh, no, we can't do that because you're helping your daughter. They wanted me not to help my daughter anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to make a choice between my daughter or the kids.
Wow.
And I says, but you got to understand, my daughter, sure, she went through her situation here. She's going to get better.
Yeah.
She's went through a domestic violence situation. Her head's all screwed up right now. And she will get well. Well, they did have nothing to do with it. So they ended up taking the kids and putting them in foster care. The tragic part, they put one of my grandkids in a group home. The county spent $8,500 a month to keep one of my grandkids in a group home. And I went in front of the judge. I said, Judge, will you please have my grandson come home with me? And I'll do it for free. The county won't have to pay $8,500 a month. So, it's tragic how our government is running without the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And without God. Because they couldn't understand how they thought somehow my daughter was manipulating me. I said,
And they spend $500 a month in your grandkids.
85.
And they keep $8,000.
Exactly. It was a
Absolutely, Rolando. They cut a $500 check to the family.
Why don't you do
Absolutely,
this? I tell you,
John.
why don't you do this? Why don't you hire a security guard, put them inside my daughter's house, 24/7, and it's a lot cheaper, and you can monitor the whole thing's going on. Well, anyway, needless to say, they refused to understand that my daughter did not deserve anything, but she did deserve my love and my mercy. And I'm trying to they talk about reunification of the kids, reunification of the family. The heck with that. That didn't matter. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in mercy.
I had a case here in family court the same way. They took the kid when the kid was born in the hospital.
Yeah.
They took it away. And thanks God, we got involved. And I tell you, I'm very proud of that.
That's excellent.
Because we got 3 people writing articles, and they finally give the baby back to the grandfather.
That is so
then
cool.
It was an honorable, respectable, hardworking man, Afro-American. How do you say, Afro-American or African-American?
African-American.
African-American. Just because the daughter tested positive for marijuana.
Yeah.
That was 3 months before they opened all the marijuana stores in the city.
Yeah.
You know, now everybody can buy marijuana, but the daughter could not have a trace of marijuana than it lasts at least 21 days. You know, she didn't smoke while she was pregnant, according to her, and I happen to believe her. You know, I was there. I witnessed every interview with the grandfather, with the mother of the kid, with the whole family. One of the daughters, the lady's sisters, lost the job in the government because the article that we wrote.
That is so
in
cool.
favor.
That is
I
so
went through
cool.
I went through a similar incident in Chicago. I've had 7 kids. I have 5 beautiful daughters and 2 wonderful sons. And Rolando's met a couple of my kids, and you know, my kids have struggled too. I've had kids that have struggled with drugs. You never give up on your children.
Oh, heck
I have
no.
kids that
And you know what?
have master's degrees. Yeah.
Now, is it because they're taking advantage of you?
No.
No, you're there
absolutely,
for mercy.
absolutely.
God gives us mercy. You know, we might not deserve it, but we get mercy. God, every day we get blessed because we may not deserve it, but God gives us mercy. And they don't understand that.
They always talk about you.
I respect the father or the mother, then back the children all the
Absolutely.
way. When you finish, I'm going to tell you a story about Josh Mosley.
But I know for a fact, and I went through that with grandkids of my own, and I went through that before even my children started having children. You know, I believe in family and I believe in kids, and I have aunts and tias and tios of mine that got into the children and family services and were foster parents. And let me tell you something. The Chicago Children and Family Services Department is deplorable. It's horrible.
It's all over the country.
And they have
country.
The children's best interest is the last thing on their mind.
Exactly.
I've seen them ripped from families that were excellent foster care parents, taken from family members of mine who it wasn't even about the money. They didn't even need the money. They could have cared less about the check. They loved one child. Her nickname was Chucky. I don't want to use her full name, and we loved her to death. She was with us for about a year. And just, you know, they came in and they actually like to continue to place them because they keep them in the system. Yeah. And then they wonder, it's money, and they wonder why they're backlogged. That's always their big thing. We're so backlogged. We have so many cases. Well, you take these children from families that love them and place them in the system. That's why you're backlogged. And it's just ridiculous. And, you know, it's frustrating. I know there are a lot of people go through things in life. God bless my dad. If my dad had been patient with me, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I was not the greatest kid on earth. I became the man I became because my dad was patient with me. He was strict with me, but he was forgiving with me. And my mom the same way.
So we gotta blame your father for
we gotta blame my dad. My dad is my best friend now, and when I was 17 years old, I hated my dad because my dad was a military man. He was very strict, and my dad asked me to leave his house because I was in his house and I wasn't obeying his laws. And I haven't lived with my parents since I was 17 years old. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. When I was 17, I didn't understand that. And I went through some rough patches, but my dad said, hey, I had to do that because I had 6 other kids to raise. And if I had sat there and allowed you to do what you was doing, I had to make an example out of you so that the other kids would follow my laws. And he said, I always knew you could handle it. Yeah. You know, I had faith in you could handle it, but if you was ever down and out, you knew you could have came back to me. And he's always been there for me.
And that's really what mercy is all about.
Absolutely, John.
You know, and you know, I went through this agony.
I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can turn my back on a family member.
Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to. Something's called tough love, and sometimes you have to. But at the same time, even though my dad, I always knew one thing about him, and I'm gonna call my dad one day and have him on the radio. He's my hero.
That's cool.
And I'm lucky he's still here. He's getting up in age now, but you know, it's weird who you become. It's weird. My dad had 7 children. I went on to have 7 children exactly, and I find myself treating my kids the same way he treated us. Sure. And you use his quotes, John. I know you do that. And you know, my dad, I'm a tough love guy. My kids know when they come around me, they got to act right and they got to be respectful. But at the same time, and I've had to use tough love. I've had to turn my back on them at times. I've had to say, listen, you got to go out and you got to live your life. You got to fall down. You got to find a way to pick yourself back up. But at the same time, they know that if they ever need me, they can call me. They know that if they ever need advice, they can ask me. I'm not going to tell them what they want to hear. I'm going to tell them what they need to know. But I love them. I forgive them. I understand that you make mistakes in life. We are all human. We fall down with a lot of things. And, I've been through struggles in my life. My wife has been through struggles in her life. It's all about forgiveness. That's part of being a Christian. You're not God. You're not perfect. Everybody has made mistakes in life. But,
And besides, I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I believe that the people that are good, the people that are pure, people that are honest, don't need God that much like we that are.
Absolutely.
We are the one that commit sins and they commit wrong things. Those are the people that we need God more than the saints.
Everybody needs God. Everybody needs God.
I know.
Especially Hillary Clinton.
What I'm trying to say is the people that think they are so pure, and because they always say, well, you don't deserve to go to the church, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve that. God forgive all us. Why can human beings forgive another human being?
Let's go to this Child Protective Services.
Oh, wow.
See what has happened with this, and the reason I brought this up was transparency.
Yeah.
They use this the idea of keeping everything confidential and secret because there's kids involved. But that alone, so they can get along, the government gets away with a lot of crap because there are all minors, underage. So, but if somebody was able to expose the corruption in the Child Protective Services and the juvenile delinquency courts and all the things that are connected to that, they find out, it is a waste of money, taxpayer money. It's a waste. There's no such thing as family reunification. It's all a lie. Yeah. They're not looking at the best interest of the kids. Heck no, that don't matter.
And they don't look at unite the family.
No. And so they were messing with the wrong person.
Because it's a business.
Yeah, they were messing with the wrong person when they started messing with me.
That's right.
Okay, and so what I did was I fought them. And they could not take it. I fought them. They spent $750,000 fighting me.
Good.
They lost lots of money. So at the end of the day, they gave up. They put the surrender sign up, the surrender flags up, and they started realizing that it was going to get worse and worse on them. So they end up giving. They never did reunify the children with my daughter, but they did put them with my sister. So the kids all went to my sister after they realized how stupid they were being. Good. They were being totally. It had nothing to do with God. In their eyes, they don't believe in God. It had nothing to do with the Constitution because they don't believe in the Constitution. There was no due process. They had their own specific rules made for their own set of standards, set of situations. Now, the other thing that I tried to explain to them is, look, my daughter was in a domestic domestic abuse relationship. She got totally abused for many years by this guy. He beat her and beat her and beat her and beat her and beat her. And so
why did she stay?
It's love. When a person is through that relationship, they go through that love situation. So anyway,
had daughters of mine go.
So what happened was that I told the judge, I told the system, I said, look give Stephanie time to rebuild herself, get back together. Because the guy ended up he went back to prison. He's in prison right now.
They always do.
So finally, his justice came. He's in prison. My daughter, thank God, she went through a drug program. She got herself clean. She's doing beautiful right now. And so she sees the kids every day. She doesn't have control of them, but she sees them every day. She takes them. My sister is able to, now that, in fact, her baby, my granddaughter, she's 2 years old, She gets to visit with her daughter and my grandkids. I mean, it is a lot. It could be better because she could have control of the kids, but at least my sister's got control of them, and my daughter's able to deal with that. But it was such an ugly process, and I learned a lot about transparency.
And you know what happened is a lot of times they expect the parents to get tired.
Yeah.
And don't fight anymore. So
Absolutely.
You know how many?
there was a case over here where they was getting the kids and selling the kid to adoptions.
Rolando.
And well, not me, but Las Vegas Tribune uncovered that and ended.
Rolando, let me tell you the cozy relationship. Let me tell you the cozy relationship that courts have with the attorneys that represent the parents and stuff. Okay, now they the court appoints an attorney for you. Okay, if you don't have money to pay for your own attorney, right? Yeah. So guess what they tell the attorneys on the side? If you don't listen to what we want, not what the client wants, then you'll never get another referral to be a judge.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, be an attorney.
But it's the same thing with the court appointment attorney for criminal.
Exactly. And so to me that is so fraudulent.
Otherwise, if they argue a case, they will not get any more. And
and that is fraud. That's corruption.
Wow.
And so you know how many attorneys I fired because they had to give me an attorney because guess what? I was the grandfather to the kids, so they were forced to spend money on me. You know how many attorneys I fired? I fired 7 of them. I said, you're going to represent me. Then they appointed me an attorney that just got out of law school. I said, you got to be sure you have one of the most experienced district attorneys over there, and you want to put an attorney that just got out of law school? Are you crazy or what? I want an attorney that can match up to her.
Let me tell you something.
It was just incredible.
There was a judge over here, then way back in the 60s, I supported him to become muni court judge, and then he went on his life, and he went up, he's a district court, and this judge and I was not looking eye to eye after a while because he was allowing his marshal to abuse the defendants. They were handcuffed and were shackled.
Oh my!
And I put them in the paper. I even put a picture of the back of the courthouse, where the chambers used to be, the holes in the wall, when that marshal used to hit people, throw the people against the wall. But the walls in this city is not that big of a deal. They hollow.
Yeah.
And I put that picture, I put that name of that marshal in the paper for 3 years or 2 years, I don't remember. Every day until that judge accepted the fact that that marshal need to go to what do you call temper control,
anger management,
and everything. And then I took now the media never say nothing. The daily papers didn't do nothing about that. But that judge son committed 2 crimes. He was a minor, so they had to go to family court. The judge went there. He didn't have a rope on. He went there, but of course, everybody knew who he is. Okay? And now the media is criticizing the judge because he went there as a father to support his kid and to give him
you go.
I defended the judge. I said he was there as a father.
Exactly.
He was not there. If he happened to be known by the judge sitting in the bench, if he happened to be known, he did what any father would have done.
Sure.
What do you want? He to stay behind the scene and don't give the kid,
Exactly.
the support. First of all, you have to be in court with your son or your daughter when they go to family court. You have to be there. So what is the big deal with this thing? You know, the media, the mainstream media never do the right thing. Never.
Well, we know why they're not doing the right thing. They're corrupt.
We defended him. We congratulate him for being a father.
Yeah.
You know, because
And
I guarantee you, it gotta be embarrassing for a guy who is a district court judge. They're supposed to be Mr. Perfect, have to go to court with his son because whatever the case was, I don't even remember now. There's another judge that his son got arrested for robbing the Mirage cage. You probably read it in the paper because everybody, you know, I didn't write
on
it.
the motorcycle.
Yeah.
On the motorcycle.
Yeah. You know, I knew the judge. He wasn't my friend, but we get along. And I didn't put the judge's name in the case. I didn't put it. I respect that part. I don't need to give anybody any bad publicity they don't deserve. He was not responsible. His son was not a minor. His son was not even living with him. He was out of state. They haven't seen each other in 10 years. You know, so why blame the guy? The guy was not my friend, but he was a good judge. He was a little tough, a little strong. You know, they used to call him Mr. 180 because he sent everybody 180 days, you know. Really? Oh my God. So I took over your radio show today, right?
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast?
It's a podcast.
Pot? I don't smoke pot.
No, it's a pod.
Oh, that kind of pot.
Podcast.
Oh, okay.
You're not just on the radio. You're on internet.
That's right.
Video. You're live streaming video.
Oh.
And so we.
Do I look nice? You
look
didn't put
wonderful.
makeup on me today.
Yeah, we're looking for the cosmetic people to come in and take care of all that good stuff.
Oh,
The
okay.
hairdressers and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need much.
I had to fix my hair, you know.
John is the only
Yeah.
one I think that needs that.
So
I
anyway.
my white hair, but they.
Well, you know what? It's the way it is. You know, you know what? When I was 30,
Natural?
let me tell you what. When I was 30 years old, I got my first. That's the first time I realized I had wrinkles on my face when I was 30. And so I looked in the mirror. I said, I can't believe I actually have wrinkles. And then later on, I started getting gray hair. And the very first time when I was in my 30s, I said, I'm going to dye my hair. So actually, I dyed my hair one time in my whole entire life, and then I realized that there was no use. It came off in a few days, a few weeks. I forgot how long it took. So since that happened, I just said, you know what? I paid for that gray hair. I might as well just keep it.
That's right.
You know? So to me, it's a badge of honor.
I had an uncle that had gray hair.
And if you don't-
since he was 30 years old.
Yeah, and if you don't have gray hair, that means that you've really paid the price. So you should be happy the way you are.
I am.
There you go.
I'm satisfied with my look. I'm satisfied
There you go.
with, you know, I was born handsome. What can I do? You know.
But anyway, so well, thank you. I think this has been a really great program. We've discussed some really good issues of the day. I think we got off the.
And we only talked for 5 minutes about Donald Trump.
Well,
What is this?
Well, no, but today
You're
was.
lacking.
No. This was a really important day that we talk about an important issue that really does cover all over America.
right.
This is not just happening in Chicago or
Yeah,
California.
it's
It's all over. It's one of the big tragedies because there's a lot of kids. And you know what happens? Let me tell you the bottom line of what happens. A lot of these kids end up in foster care.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens when the kids end up in foster care? They drop out of school.
Yeah.
They have worse relationships with the people that are supposed to be their guardians and protectors.
But for 30 years, Hillary's fought for children.
That's the same way that happen. That's the same thing that happened to other adult people. They go to prison, they meet criminals, real criminals, and they become criminals. Yeah. Goodbye.
Well, okay, Sonny, well, thank you, America. This has been Conservative Roundtable. I thank my two guests here, Chris and Rolando, for a good discussion, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, and God bless.